Does being alone equal loneliness? And is the company of others the only cure? The confusion of loneliness and being alone is quite common. So if you also have thoughts about this being the same, you're not alone, statistically. For context, I've been a clinical psychologist for 8 years and owned my own clinic for 5. Because the feeling loneliness is often accompanied with pain or painful emotions, then being alone will be thought to produce the same. Some will thus hold the belief that being alone is bad for them or painful and should be avoided. Or some will believe that being alone automatically equals to feelings of loneliness. This confusion amongst my clients will cause them to struggle. It can lead them to feel powerless, as it seems to them that they automatically feel lonely every time they are alone. Some might seek out company all the time or spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to make more friends, because they think that solving the alone factor will solve their loneliness. As you can hear, they confuse the two, or believe that they're linked or glued together. This is where I come in and help them out. Because feeling lonely and being alone is not the same. And because it's not the same but different, a thing that's directed at solving one will not solve the other. As a psychologist, I really dislike inefficient strategies or my clients doing something that does not work. This is because I see how much pain and frustration it causes them when they're doing something that they think is going to work but isn't. Here, it's usually my cue to let them know that yes, it's not working because it was never meant to work in the first place. So why is working on getting more friends or being more social not a good fix towards feeling lonely? Being social or surrounded by people will make you technically not alone. Because you're then not alone, you're with people. Some people might say that they feel alone, and of course you can describe your feelings however you want, but my guess would be that what you mean is that you feel lonely. Lonely is something we can feel. We are not lonely, we feel lonely. As such, fixing the practical matter of being alone is not the same as making a feeling go away. It might be that most will get the feeling of lonely when they are alone, thereby the confusion, and that as such, being with people will make it so that the feeling doesn't come up as much. But is this true in reality? Because using what we know from psychology, trying to escape emotions by avoiding the situations that trigger them usually leads to the emotions growing or becoming bigger, not smaller. And as I mentioned before, I often see that the friendships that are built on wanting to escape solitude are not always the best matches, thus making the individual feeling less satisfied with the time spent being social. Plus, dealing with the reality makes it so that it is difficult to never be alone. Therefore, being able to handle the feeling of loneliness directly is likely more efficient than avoiding it. And dealing with a feeling will often help us in reducing it or at least manage it in a way so it doesn't make us feel frustrated and hopeless. So, is company the only cure for loneliness? No. Or at least it should not be. But here is how it might work a little bit anyways. When we are with someone, we usually engage with listening or watching or doing. This means that our attention is directed outwards. We will as such have less attention on how we're feeling and what we're thinking, because we are, in simple matters, distracted. This is one of my guesses of why being with others can sometimes feel like it cures loneliness. When we're distracted from what we're feeling and thinking, we feel it less, or we don't feel it at all. Being distracted is not the same as suppressing. Suppressing means that we spend energy on pushing something down, whereas being distracted just means that our attention is placed elsewhere. So because hanging out with other people can distract us, we'll often find that we can more easily ignore negative feelings and thoughts when we're social. Though this is not because of us being social, it is because we're being distracted or letting ourselves being distracted. This is also, in my belief, the reason why some of my clients report still feeling lonely in spite of being with others. This is likely due to that they're not letting themselves be distracted in the moment and that they keep attention to their negative thoughts or feelings. This can be enhanced by engaging with people that you don't really like or match with, as this makes them have a less enjoyable time or less interesting time. As such, affording them to feel less likely to put their attention outwards and on the moment or what's going on around them. So, where does this leave us? Does being alone equal loneliness? No, or at least it shouldn't. We hold the same ability of letting ourselves be distracted or distracting ourselves when we're alone as when we're with other people. It's not something that happens to us, it's something that we do. We can distract ourselves by putting our attention away from our thoughts and emotions and focusing on something else. When we're distracted, this means that we're not thinking further or feeling further on whatever pops into our mind. If we get a thought about feeling lonely and we engage in thinking more about it and rest our attention on how we feel, we'll likely feel kind of bad and sad. If we continue doing this, we'll likely end up feeling frustrated and hopeless after a while. As such, engaging more with this thought when it pops up is not helpful. But what to do then? If the psychologist says that you should not run out and find people in order to avoid the thought or the feeling, what you can do is borrow from the same principle of what happens when you're engaged in being social. That is, that your mind is focused on something else than your thoughts and feelings. As you hold the same ability to control your attention, whether there are people around you or not, you can practice this when you're alone. So, when the thought or feeling of lonely pops up, you call it out or view it for what it is. It is a thought or a feeling. You then ask yourself, do you have to talk to that thought right now? Do you have to continue to think about it? Do you have to answer it? Or if we should use a phone metaphor, do you have to pick up the phone when it rings? Or could you choose to let that thought or feeling be without talking more to it, without giving it more attention? Could you choose to focus on something else? Could you choose to distract yourself in that moment when that thought or feeling pops up? Technically, your answer should be yes, because you likely do this 1,000 times a day. You get a thought pop into your mind, and you don't think about it further because you're focused on something else. If you think more about the thought of being lonely when it pops up, you'll likely feel sad and bad. But what would happen if you did not answer? What would happen if you left the thought alone and distracted yourself with something else? It might phone you again or pop up again. But do you have to pick it up? Or can you just let it ring until it stops ringing while you try to busy yourself with something else? This is one of the techniques that I give my clients to work on reducing their feelings of loneliness. It helps them significantly. It also helps them in not feeling like they need to avoid the feelings by running out and being social. It helps them know that they can tackle the feeling or thought when it pops up, and that they don't have to be social to deal with it. This allows them in the long run to only pursue relationships with people based on that they like hanging out with them or that they feel good or interested in what they're doing with them. That they're social not because they want to avoid being alone and avoid feeling lonely, but because the other person gives them something meaningful. I think this was all we had time for. What was your takeaway from today's video? As always, please take away the information you can use, if any, and leave the rest. Hopefully you found that today's topic made sense and I did not waste your time. Please like or subscribe so my channel can grow. Take care and see you for the next one.